The webinar will be recorded. Please mute yourself and turn off your camera. Please ask questions via the chat. And all slides, recording, and links will be shared after the webinar. Any unanswered questions will be followed up. So today's speakers and experts I'd like to welcome are Cohen, our Senior Director, Product Management, Zvonimir Ivanetic, Director, R&D for Natural Open Systems, Regina Belo and Winfried Kosa as our experts. They are Senior Software Specialists for Natural Open Systems. So I'll start the recording now, and I hand over to my colleague, Ellie. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Nina, and welcome everybody to our second Ask R&D session. My name is Cohen, and I'm the product manager of Natural. So after a successful session that we had last year, we decided to continue with this second session of Ask R&D. And I'm so happy to see the number of attendees that we have today. So we are here to answer your direct questions. Zvonimir will start with this session, so please post your question in the chat. We also welcome ideas for the next session, so please follow up the server that will come after this session, and please share your input. We don't have specific cycles for these sessions, so please stay informed with our group platform or directly from your local representative. As said, on today's session, we will focus on NaturalONE. Next slide, please. So I would say, as a former developer of Natural, I feel that I missed the opportunity to develop my Natural application with the modern environment and with DevOps. I know there is many things that you should learn and have some guides and walkthrough. So we have this one-stop shop website. We call it developersoftwareG.com. So there you will find links to aha ideas where you can share to add more ideas into our backlog of Natural, also NaturalONE and other products. You have a link to the free trials and the documentation roadmap. In the tutorials and video, so there is also the self-paced training where you can learn in your own pace NaturalONE. I can share that we have a focus for this in our upcoming next years. Our team grew up to enhance the training. So stay tuned also for new training that will come up. You also have some code samples in a GitHub project that we created. It is a community GitHub project where you can contribute and also get some code samples from this GitHub project. And of course, links to the support and to community and events. So I will just hand over to Zvonimir. So enjoy the session.
Okay, so thank you very much, Eli. Hello, everybody. Let me also welcome you from my side. As already introduced, my name is Zvonimir Ivanetic, and I'm the product owner and team lead in the Natural Open System space, and with that also responsible for NaturalONE. And I'm really delighted today to present this webinar, this Ask R&D session. And with this, we have prepared quite some content in this session where I would like to guide you now through. And yeah, I will start with some overview topics, but in fact, yeah, the main goal is that you ask your questions, but nevertheless, I have prepared the full tight agenda, so I could definitely speak for more than an hour with interesting content, and I'm prepared for this depending on the questions which will come in throughout the session. And the topics that I have prepared are starting with, I think, a very interesting question that always comes to rise in the customer base, especially when they're embarking on the journey of NaturalONE. It's the differences between the server mode, the repository-based development mode, or something what I usually call the dev part of DevOps. And this is where we will dig in as the first topic. And I've also prepared a live demo. So I will start with some content, some introductions, and then we will look into my real-time environment so that you get a more real impression about this. After this session, I have also prepared a whole set of helpful tips for your daily work that I think is worth it to share, so that you get at least this foundation of information to work with NaturalONE. And I also have a complete set about some guidance on version control and development, which is actually the ops part. How do you deploy these changes to different environments? But this is already a sophisticated topic. As said, it's all prepared. But the main goal of this session actually is to ask R&D. And I'm also today joined, as already introduced, with two experts from my team. Really happy about this. And I think together we can mainly answer all your questions. And I will pause after each of these sections. But I will start at least giving you an introduction into server mode and repository-based development, so that this information is already shared with all the participants, as this was also announced in the webinar. And I will start right away so that we do not lose too much time on this. And then we will halt, see what are the questions, and probably this presentation already triggers a lot of questions in the audience. Good. So with this, let's start into server mode versus repository-based development. So first of all, I think what especially many customers from the mainframe are familiar with is the green screen development that we see here, where the source code typically is located in the F user, in the Adabas database, actually on the mainframe, residing on a development environment, but also on Linux. It sits on the F user in the file system. And with a terminal emulation, you can connect from your developer workstation, as you see here, to this environment, work remotely, and develop your sources. And this is familiar, and with NaturalONE, now additionally to this environment, you have an installation on your developer workstation, where NaturalONE is running as an Eclipse-based environment in your developer workstation. And here you are also connecting remotely, but not through a terminal or an SSH communication, but through the natural development server, which is used by NaturalONE to upload your sources, to make changes to the environment, and to execute and run your application. And this is remotely connected to Natural through this connectivity. And this is the actual server mode that also customers are familiar with. You are connecting remotely and making changes directly on the F user. And we also here have a local workspace in NaturalONE, as we will see in my live demo. And in the local workspace, there is a temporary project created with all the modules that you are working on. Okay, and how does, in contrary to this, looks the repository-based team development? Because this is a shift in mindset to work with, and probably some of the people in the call are very familiar with all of this, and maybe I bore them. Others, which might be on the mainframe and are interested, are probably not that familiar with this approach. So therefore, I try a little bit to balance this, and I hope at least throughout the whole session, there's interesting content to everybody in this round, depending on the level of experience and expertise they have. So, but back to the repository-based team development. In this case, and this I always call as the shift in mindset, is that you accept that there is a repository, a source code management system, which now becomes the single source of truth for all the sources. So it's no longer the F user. The F user in these setups is somehow downgraded to an environment where you are just cataloging your sources and executing your sources, but it is not the source of truth for what your sources of your application are. And in this case, also the process changes to work with. So when you want to work on your sources from your application, you're actually pulling them out of your central repository. And in the Git concept with a decentralized approach, you also have a local Git repository where you are working with, where you're making your changes, and your changes that you are doing then locally in your workspace are not directly affected or applied in the F user remotely. But of course, in the same way through the NDV server, you can upload your changes to the runtime. And here we have achieved something which is called the private mode, which gives you additional flexibility, especially with a mainframe where you cannot easily separate multiple environments for each developer. And this private mode gives you the ability to execute and upload sources isolated from other developers and also from the shared library. And we'll also try to show this a little bit in my demo that I do afterwards to trigger a little bit these differences. And then it will probably also get clearer for those who are not already quite familiar with this topic. In any case, after you have executed run, you're happy with the changes that you have done, you are then usually committing back and pushing your changes into the repository. So you are not uploading it yourself into the shared library on such a development environment, but you are committing the changes to the repository. And then afterwards, these changes that you are deploying are automatically uploaded with an Jenkins, a CI tool like, for instance, Jenkins, but also GitHub Actions or any other CI tool that you are using, an automation tool which can leverage the ARN deployment script, which comes with NaturalONE, to upload the changes centrally to the development environment. And it ensures that it can be built, that the deploy is successful, and informs every developer if these uploads are running well. And in this scenario, when the changes are coming centrally from the repository environment, in fact, you cannot work anymore in parallel with some kind of green screen editor on this same F user sources, as it doesn't make sense. You are overwriting, in this case, all the changes from the repository which have been done by somebody locally. And therefore, this approach is not possible to really try to mix a development on the F user with a switch to a repository-based approach. And you could also ask, what are actually the biggest strengths of the repository-based approach? Of course, beside it, you are using a standardized source management system. And of course, the fact that you have great history capabilities to track all your changes in the repository combined with the strength to revert and see every change that you have done. I think the most important thing is that you can also work in parallel on your sources with a branching model. So as we see it here, in case you have a development team which is working on a branch one, as it is illustrated here, you could also have a second development team which is working in a parallel on a parallel functionality, which is then contributing to a branch which you have created of your sources, and you can work in isolation, upload these changes, work on it, and when you are finished, you can bring in these changes back to your master branch, your main development version, and then incorporate this back into your version. And this flexibility and agility of working parallel is definitely one of the strengths, additionally to, of course, the other one with the history, to work with a centralized Git repository. Okay, so, and I also want to show this a little bit. So I would like to take the next 10 minutes to show a little bit NaturalONE in my environment, also with a repository. Of course, I cannot go into all the details. For some, probably I will be too fast. For others, it will be boring. So it depends a little bit on the expertise level that you have. But I hope after these 10 minutes of presentation, there will be a lot of questions that we can then interactively look into this. So with that, I would quickly also turn off my camera so that you don't watch me while here navigating around and not somehow on the presentation, and start with the NaturalONE environment. So what I'm showing now is the NaturalONE development environment that you should all be familiar with. And here I will give you some impression about what is the local mode, what is the server mode, and what is the repository-based approach. And I think the most important thing to clarify are these two areas here that you usually in the beginning are not clear about what is the difference. Yeah, and here we have a project explorer in this area, and down here we have the natural servers connected. And I'm connecting here to two environments. I have a Linux server in my test environment, as you can see it here, but I will concentrate today on the mainframe part, as I think, yeah, it's probably most interesting for people in the mainframe development to understand these differences and think about such a switch, as the majority of Linux customer, I think, is already leveraging a Git repository with this deployment. Yeah. So, and in this case, what is important to understand, the natural server view that we have here is not residing in my local workspace. This is a logical view remotely on the F user that we see on the mainframe side, in this case, where I'm connected to. And I also have applied a filter, so you're probably aware of the capabilities to apply filters so that you don't get a large list here of modules displayed. And therefore, I'm just reducing this to these two libraries that I have back on my mainframe. And here, for instance, is an NT-lib where I will concentrate on and show a little bit some functionality. So this is connected remotely. And I can also show this. Yeah. So here on the other side, I have just opened a natural ISPF editor on the mainframe. And here I could connect to the natural modules and will also open the NT-lib. So just that you can match, yeah, the view from the mainframe side of the F user to these programs. And here you can see exactly these programs here represented on the natural ISPF editor, for instance, where I'm connected to. And we will also look quickly how sources are changing when I make some adaptations to them. Yeah. So, okay. With this, let's first start in a quick view into the server mode. Yeah. So the server mode actually is a work, as you see it here, you are in the NDV server. And in fact, we have some capabilities that you can work with here. You see it in the context menu. Yeah, what you can work on. And you can, with double click or clicking here on edit, make a change to these sources. And what you usually then recognize is also this project, which pops up here in the Project Explorer. It's a temporary project which is created, as this was the approach, how this is designed. And in this temporary project, it enriches all the modules which you have actually opened in this server mode. And then you can make changes here to your sources, yeah, that you are working on. So for instance, yeah, I can here write and say something like webinar ask R&D. Yeah, so let me write it a little bit wrong. So like this, then you can identify it. Yeah, and you can save it. And when you save these sources, they are also immediately saved on the remote environment. And you can also store these sources from this machine, and then you can execute it. Yeah, so you can run this module here. Let's just see it. So remotely execution through the server mode, and then you see here an inline an inline application where my changes are already applied. Yeah, this is the way how you are executing through the server mode the changes that you are doing. And if I'm switching back here to the application on the mainframe, we could now just check here from the sources. And if I would browse here the document and go a little bit down, you can see that I have applied my changes here in the document. Yeah, so this is exactly the changes that I have done. But what I also want to mention, and this is somehow also an obstacle, yeah, that you should be aware of, if you are working here on sources in the server mode, yeah, then in this case, if you try to edit it, so I now try to edit this module here, you are not allowed to edit this module due to a locking which applies when you are taking these modules here into an edit mode in NaturalONE remotely to an NDV server. So this is also an not comfortable limitation factor, as it tries to make sure that objects are locked and not changed at the same time from both sides. In case I'm closing this project here, yeah, the lock will be freed. But just to show you something before I close it, I mentioned that this is a local view, a logical view on the environment on the server, while this here is a local view on the project. And here I just want to show you a little bit demystified. Where is this Project Explorer actually pointing to? And in a Windows environment, this is simply pointing to the location where your workspace is. So you can see that here I have a workspace that I have opened. You probably know that you can open multiple workspaces, and the workspace that I have opened is now directly reflecting this temporarily created project that I have see here. And the only program that is open is inside is exactly this this temp project. And here I can directly plug in an interesting hint for work. Sometimes you have this module here open, and if you are interested, where is actually this module here from an expansion point of view? This will also be in my tips and tricks. But if you use this nice link with editor button over here, then whatever you have opened here in the document is automatically expanded and opened also here in the project tree. And this can be very helpful if you have 10,000 modules instead of just one in the list. And what I want to show is, in case you are now closing this document here, this temporary project, especially if it's the only module that was open, is disappearing. And it in this case also just disappears on the file system. So here's a link between the Project Explorer and this file system. And probably you ask yourself the question, yeah, but where's this natural test project coming? I will explain this later, why it's not here in the workspace. But now, as I have closed this module, and we would go back here to the server, and I would try to edit this with my ISPF editor, you see I'm now able to again get into the module, and then I could apply here some changes that I would do in my environment. So this is an impression about how the server mode works. So I'm remotely working. In fact, you can in the server mode even apply changes from a direct NSPF editor to the F user, and you can do it also from NaturalONE. But now let's have a look into the repository-based approach. In the repository-based approach, I also have here a project in my workspace, and this is linked to a Git repository. And I actually have the same project in here, but there are all the sources that are part of this project. Of course, it's very small because I don't want to distract you with a lot of modules, but just focus on the same sources that we have here. The difference in this case is that I'm versioned with a Git repository with all of the sources that we see here. And this is probably also sometimes tricky because you ask yourself why it's not in the workspace. I can show you this. There's also the capability to say here show in System Explorer, and then he shows you actually where this project is. He shows you that this is not directly under the workspace, but Git is typically moving all Git related projects to a central standard place. And in this case, this is where my project is located. So here we can see my project that we see on the left-hand side in the Project Explorer in my file system. So just to link this a little bit, what is meant with a local workspace? Local workspace means here really source modules, the projects are physically on my machine, while in the server view, over here, everything is just a logical view to what is located in the F user on Linux backend or on the mainframe. So, and then now let's look a little bit in the process. So here in this case, if I would make a change into this project, and you can now imagine that this change that I done before is not here. Because I'm having the sources locally in my repository, and the changes that were done now on the F user are of course not in this local project that I'm connected in here. And I can make here another change, call it the second change, R&D, ask, hope that's not too long now. And I by intention make some mistakes here, then you better identify the string later on in the sources. So I've now made a change to the string, and when you are saving it with Control S, then you usually get some decorators here displayed in this environment. And one decorator that you usually have is that it indicates you that this module that you have in workspace is out of sync of the F user you are connected to. And you can, of course, just upload then this module individually. You can build the whole workspace. I will also later show a hint how this can be done automatically, but let's just upload individually this module to the server by clicking on this button. And in this case, the indicator disappears. Yeah, and you could now probably expect that this is here on the server side in the module that we have here. So if I would browse it and you would check down here, you will recognize, that's the old statement. Yes, that's exactly how it is, because I'm working with the private mode. Private mode in this case means that if you're looking here in the properties of such a library, and here in the natural in the properties, you will find there's something which is called the private mode library name. And this private mode library name that I have here is automatically handled by Natural and Natural Security to manage in isolation the changes I have done. And this gives me the ability now to execute these changes that I have done, individually without affecting any other developer or any other source in the shared library. And this is, I think, quite a strength and helps really to work even with a mainframe if you're sharing an environment, but to execute, run something, and then bring everything together to a repository. So you can see here my second change is represented in this environment. Now, while it's still not in the library, but I could show it quickly. If I don't mistype it here, we can even look into my private library, and you see here exactly the module that I'm working on. If I would browse it and scroll down, you will here recognize the change that I have made. So just to give you also a feeling where this resides. So let me take care not to mistype it. So back to the shared one. And now how is the process? So after you have made your changes, you are happy, you would actually commit these changes back to the repository. So you would actually here say, and this is not natural specific, this is how this is simply done by the Git plugin here. You could just say commit the changes, and then it opens the staging view, which is usually hidden down here in this area. And here you can stage all the changes that you want to make, prepare it for a commit. And that is nice, and I really like this. Before you even commit something to the repository, if you double click on your changed modules, you can always see the difference, whatever you have changed. So before you even commit something to the repository, you can decide if the changes that you have made look good, or if you have accidentally made a change that you don't want to commit. And in this case, you can just say here, this doesn't look good. Let me correct this quickly. And in this case, let me again take this into the version and then make a commit to this. So commit my changes, new second changes. So, and now I will push this to the repository. In this case, I'm not explaining all the details about the repository, but what happens behind the scene, I'm not uploading this myself to the shared libraries, but I'm committing this to Git repository where I'm connected with. And I can quickly show this as well. So this is on the other page here, our software AG GitHub, and I have here a personal repository which calls the natural test. And if I just refresh it, you can see that here I have done commit my second change. That's the message that I wrote just right now. And here you can also find exactly the sources that you are working with in this environment. And I think this is now the location where you have, so to speak, the source of truth. Here you can see exactly the changes that I committed to this environment. And with these changes committed to this environment 1 minute ago, we can now look into the deployment script that is uploading my changes. So, and I have not triggered this automatically, but just to explain it a little bit. So whatever you are pushing to the repository, you can afterwards upload automatically from your Git repository with the script that can be created by NaturalONE to your environment, to the shared libraries. And this is exactly what we are doing here. I don't want to go into all the details of this deploy job. Yeah, I just wanted to keep it simple. I will just schedule here manually a deployment. This is usually triggered by a hook so that this happens automatically in the background. But in this case, I've just triggered it manually and want here down just show a little bit what happens. There's a lot of content here of the script. And you can see that this script that we have is opening also an NDV connection and then uploading the changes to the anti-lib library. And we have actually here one module that is now uploaded to this environment, which is test MP. And this is exactly the module where I have done the changes. So, and what does it mean? Yeah, if I move back, I have not saved these changes here properly, but it doesn't matter. So let us move back to this environment. That's still the original string in this. If I now look into the test amp and we are now browsing these changes, you will now see that this is updated, yeah, with the string. And this means the original message is now, after committing it to the repository, the central one, after the Jenkins job deploys it automatically, then updating this environment. And with this, you also see, yeah, why it's not practicable to work in parallel on these sources with an editor, because whatever you would do here with an editor is actually, yeah, has no consistency, because it will always be overwritten with the sources which are inside of your Git repository, as the Git repository becomes the single source of truth. This is how this approach works. Yeah, and yeah, I wanted to show this a little bit in a small walkthrough, and I hope that this introduction into this topic makes this more clearer for those who are thinking about this approach, how this works. And at this point in time, I think I will now pause a little bit, and I'm really curious to hear or to read or hear from Eli which questions came up in this topic.
Yeah, so there are many questions, also enhancement requests, but I will try to go one by one and just refer to the ones that are related to this topic. So there was enhancement request about changing a copy or rename program with the library. So please open AHA request for that. So we will look into that. There is a question related to this topic, Zvonimir, how to integrate predict with migrations using Bicket and Jenkins.
Okay, I think that's also a good question. Yeah, you can have, of course, also predict on your backend. And for predict, there's actually also a plugin where you can, I'm just showing it here, you can operate even from NaturalONE on your predict assets, yeah, the database definitions that you have. And here you have support in NaturalONE. And what we are in fact offering in the recent versions in the plugin is that you can take definitions from predict, upload them, and version them as well inside of your sources. This means you can have your predict assets in, I think the name is intermediate format, but I'm not exactly sure. And then they can also be part of your sources, and you can version them. And when you move on, you can again use predict to upload these, these database changes and even apply them to another environment, as we'll probably see if we come to the release topic of today. So I hope that answers the questions, but yeah, it probably requires more explanation in detail, as this could fill an own webinar, I think.
Yeah. So there was also another question, how DDMs integrate into the repository. So I think it's the same topic. There was a question here, which is more sounds like an issue when take a program from personal space to the, from the natural server to the personal workspace. Sometimes it happens that it says program does not exist. Sounds like an issue. I see that we have 2 comments like that. So please open an incident and we will look into that. There is also a question, why can I change my variable to use mixed mode case? This also sounds like an issue, so this is not related to our session, sorry, so please open an incident for that. There is a question about our roadmap, how to search my whole library in the server mode. So I'm happy to say that in October 24, we're planning to release a new feature that you will be able to search in the server mode to have more capability to look into the server mode. Another one is NaturalONE plugin loses cache file. I think it is an issue that need to be open as an incident. I hope that David, you got your audio back. Okay, now a question to this topic. Can natural compiled objects be uploaded to a repository so that natural objects are migrated from acceptance to production instead of moving source to production and then compiling in production?
Mm-hmm. We will probably, yeah, I'm not sure if we will come to the session about the release management based on the questions, but in fact, you require a natural environment to catalog the sources. And this requires an NDV server, yeah, to be uploaded, but you can have, of course, a build server. And then with the help of the NDV server and the upload, you can come to your, your GP of your sources, and this GP can then be shifted also to a productional environment. Yeah, and this is the process how this is currently achieved. And if you come to this, yeah, there are also some slides where I'm showing how you are bringing your changes from development to QA and to production. Hope this will then probably ease this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next one is, can I eliminate the natural headers? So this is from Chezi. Please send me an email on that. I will try to figure it out. How to use debug in repository-based mode?
Oh, yeah, actually the debugging works straightforward. Yeah, so for example, if you take this module, I've not tested it, yeah, but let's see if this works out of the box with the mainframe environment. Not sure if it's configured, but we can just try it, yeah, here on the live environment. And in best case, we are directly in, and you can see that when I'm here now just stepping over, yeah, I'm directly in step-by-step debugging. Here you can see the system variables, so it looks nice. Yeah, we are already in a mode that works, and here you can see the data, yeah, from the mainframe environment in this case. So local mode, yeah, having your sources works. This is exactly what it's designed for, to work with that. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah. Is it possible to use Linux with fuser as a main work area instead of Git repository setup? Thank you. I see that Pascal replied here that it's actually our server mode, but maybe Zvonimir, if you'd like to say a few words on that.
Not sure if I got it exactly, but of course you can also use the fuser on the Linux side. Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, so here if you take my Linux environment where I'm connected to, you also have your library C and the fuser, and you can treat it in the same way. But the recommended approach, especially with Linux, is not to work with the fuser as your source of truth for your sources, but of course to, in this world, switch to source code management system.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There was a question, will it be possible to use GUI elements such as buttons, list box in NaturalONE? I think the answer is a different product, similar product, which calls Natural for Ajax, where you can program with GUI elements, responsive objects. So this is for it. any changes that you're committing here. So I believe this is what was asking here. So does it apply to all buffer pool, or should the buffer pool be shared?
Not sure if I can answer this question, if I understand it right. Yeah, from the buffer pool point of view, yeah, the buffer pool that I'm using in this case is the same. Yeah, so this is one shared buffer pool, and the private mode library, for instance, is also located in exactly the same buffer pool in my scenario. So that's how it's set up, and it's just separated through the libraries and the names of it. So I hope that answers the question. Not sure, but probably then drop another one, please.
Okay. Run jobs via JCL for natural module. So please look into the documentation for mainframe navigation. This will answer the question. Now it's the server mode again. There is a topic here about performance moving from Windows to Linux. Sounds like that we need to better look into that. Please open an incident for that. Okay, any best practice to share about application distributed on several natural library, several step clip on how to organize Git project? So I believe this is maybe the 1 million question, how to move from the library structure to project structure.
Yeah, I think especially if you're on a mainframe and you have one, yeah, either large library or you have, yeah, a lot of libraries in this environment, then you need to think about when you're moving, especially to Git, if one large big library really makes sense. Yeah, and it definitely makes sense to invest to separate this a little bit. Yeah, and to separate it, especially in some kind of structures where you can have a central library, which is used by many of the modules of the applications. There are central modules. You can also have a separate one for your DDMs. Yeah, this definitely makes sense to structure, also depending on the permissions that you should have to access, who should read, who should be able to make changes. Yeah, and this separation was done by several customers, and I think this works well. I'm not sure if I can provide a quick answer what suits individual environments, but this separation definitely makes sense. And when you are moving into repository, one big hint is that you really try to clean up as well your sources in this step, because usually on a mainframe in a long history, you have so many developer copies of modules which you have just created for safetyness. And if you are moving to the repository, actually these modules are not required anymore because the repository takes care of all your differences going forward. So just create a backup of this large files and try to clean it up and just import the real versions. And here, yeah, there is actually an approach that can help you how to initially load your sources into Git. I also have this in one of my slides, but when I see the amount of questions, I'm now concerned that we will not go through all of that.
Okay, so I see some questions were answered correctly by others, so I will not repeat them. Can we run compare between two different module names? Usually it compares only with the server.
Could you repeat? Not sure.
Can we run compare between two different module names?
Why names? Between two different modules, you can run a compare. Yeah, for example, if I select these two modules here and I could say compare with each other, yeah, you see then a comparison between these two modules and recognize that they are nearly completely different. But these capabilities you have in general, what regarding the names, I'm not sure, but you can in fact compare every file, every module with every other module.
Yeah, okay. So if this was not answered, please post again for that. So this, I see that the answer. Is there a way to create a branch that only includes a subset of modules in a library?
Could you repeat once again?
Is there a way to create a branch that only includes a subset of modules in a library? This means that to have not the entire library into a project. I believe that's what he means here.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, so if you create the branch reflects everything which is part of this repository. And if you want to have only subsets also branched, you should then, from my point of view, rather think to separate your project into multiple Git repositories. Yeah, so that in each Git repository you have a subset of your modules, and then you can arrange them all together. Yeah, the different Git repositories even here, and then you can create branches for parts of it. And you can even do so if you have one big library. You could in fact separate a library into 3 projects in 3 Git repositories, and then, for example, put into one project all the modules which starts with AB, in the other modules all that starts with CD, and in the third with EF. And with this way, even with the same library, you could structure multiple projects in different Git repositories, and then you can branch these sub functionalities and these sub modules individually from others. But of course, it's a little bit sophisticated, and you must think about how to structure again your project. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is about those 2 questions which are similar about the private mode library. It's how do you create the private mode library? Do you need to do it per developer in sysec, or it's done automatically, including the step libs?
Okay, so actually it is there's different ways. Per default, when you create it, it just works in the shared mode. Yeah, so with the libraries. And if you have, for example, natural security, you see it here. Here is the private mode library that I'm connected with. And in the step libs here, you can in fact individually define if you want to work in shared or private mode for this library. So this capability you have, first of all, individually. But of course, this doesn't make sense for all the sheer amount of developers if you have 20 that everybody does and defined it by himself. So therefore, you can put this information about the private mode library as part of your default settings in the .NET natural file of your repository. And if you look in then the .NET in this file, yeah, you will here actually find the private mode setting as well. Yeah, that is defined for your projects. Yeah, in this setting. Oh, that's a bad example. You need, of course, to store also the defaults of this file. But here you can specify the defaults, and when somebody checks your project out, yeah, then he will have these defaults. Additionally to this, in security, in natural security, you can specify that libraries are only allowed to be used in a private mode in general. And this is very strong, because then it doesn't matter what somebody defines in his own project. Security will limit every developer automatically to use private mode libraries. And what you then can do with a special link to a technical user, which is used by the CI tool like Jenkins, to upload only this special user. You can give a special link in natural security, and he will be allowed to upload to the shared libraries. And with this, you can really well control it. Yeah, and this is how it was also set up at several customers, and I think works well for a long time. Maybe this answers the questions around that.
Mm-hmm. Question about the GP. If we want to back out to a previous version, we would want to pull the previous version GPs for a true backout.
Yeah. If this depends on which mode you are using, yeah. if you're working with a repository, you actually have all the history of all your changes, yeah, to the modules. So if I here would look into the history of all my modules, for instance, you can see here all the changes that I've done. Yeah, there are a lot of these changes, and here you can also see the latest one that I have done. You see it here, yeah, my second change that I have applied. And of course, I could even change this back, or you can you say something like revert your commit, yeah, of the changes. And when you are reverting your commits, yeah, then it is actually taking this back. Okay, this didn't work as expected. Yeah, sometimes you shouldn't show. No, it works. I'm joking. It's fine. It's reverted. It looked like, there you go. Yeah, so you see now this is removed, the change that I have done. And this change is now already prepared even to be updated to the server. Yeah, so I can just push this version to the server, and now my changes are reverted. Yeah, this means if you are looking back on the server here in Git, and you would look at the changes that I've done, you see here it says revert commit my second change. And as soon as you are uploading, yeah, this which usually runs automatically here in the Jenkins job, yeah, as soon as this job is uploading my changes and we are checking back here, let me go back and I'm browsing it again, you will see that it is gone. Yeah, so the change that I have done is just immediately completely reverted. And this would also apply if it's 100 modules that I have changed with this commit. Yeah, you can just revert them. As soon as they're reverted, the changes are applied. But this is how it works with the repository-based approach. Yeah, this is probably different to an approach where you are on the server in the F user. If you are on the F user, you need to use other tools to restore a history for your GPs. Hope that answers the question.
I see, David, you wrote another feedback on this one. So maybe we can, if you can drop email maybe with your local representative of Software AG to reach out to us, and then we look into this and answer that. I see that you just post another feedback on this one. Okay. Do we have any option for the table-based module to identify and also table-based data? Not sure about.
Could you repeat?
Do we have any option for the table-based modules to identify and also table-based data?
I think this is a customer-specific tool. I think we cannot answer this here. I know about this. Oh, but nothing to do with NaturalONE.
Okay. That's okay.
How are we able to use map editor in NaturalONE? Do you have map here to show? Maybe just.
Oh yes, sure. Here's a map. Yeah, I can interactively show it. So here, for instance, you have the map editor. Yeah, and I can here directly make some changes. Yeah, add here some text constant. Yeah, and then there's a label, and usually you use here the field over here, test asked R&D, and I can just save these changes. And I think even that this map is directly used by the program over here, so I can just run it. And we should now see this map executed on my mainframe environment with the change that I've done. There you go. So that's how you work with maps. Hope that answers the question with a quick demo on the fly.
Okay. The question about the GUI elements refer to change from natural Windows to NaturalONE. We have button and list boxes in our maps, but can no longer. This need to be look into how to convert from NaturalONE GUI elements to NaturalONE. Again, the solution is going to Natural for Ajax, as we don't have it's really depend on the Linux because you don't have a GUI element there.
Maybe so, just to add on this, yeah, there are these additional elements which are supported, in fact, on the mainframe. They are not as yet, at least, supported in this displaying also with the map editor and also with the visualization of WebIO and Natural for Ajax, the instant visualization. So therefore, one solution is to switch to Natural for Ajax, as Eli pointed out. This is the really strong amount where you have all the mighty capabilities of a modern user interface, especially with the responsive interface. And therefore, this is the recommended approach then to move. If we going forward, we'll think about enhancing also these controls into the interface of the WebIO, I can't say. This is then a question to product management. Yeah.
Okay, so will the lifecycle manager connect to the NaturalONE editor? Maybe you can just get this.
Will the lifecycle
manager connect to the NaturalONE editor? I think it's more about the clips capabilities that our NaturalONE specific solution. I think it's related to Jenkins connects to the NaturalONE editor. Do you have to upload a change module to the NDV before you can execute it to reflect the changes? I think it's related to the private mode.
Could you again repeat? Because
do you have to upload a change module to the NDV before you can execute it to reflect the changes?
Yes. So if I here, for example, as you have seen, do a change, a change like this, then you have also these illustrations. If I would run it, it would just execute the version on the server. But what you can do, beside the fact that here is a button that uploads all the modules which need to be uploaded, you can make your life more comfortable. This is also part of my hints, but I can just try to place it here in this session. Here in the settings, you have the ability to say build natural projects automatically. This item over here. And if you set this setting and you make a change to a module like this and you save it, then this automatically is uploaded to the environment. So you see, I don't have to click anything. As soon as I change it here and click save, it is then automatically afterwards uploaded. You can quickly see it pop up that it's not in sync, but then it's immediately updated. This is due to the delay that I'm here in my home office and the mainframe runs in a different city remotely, but I don't have to upload it in this case. And this can ease your life because then you are just working and changing and you see the changes are immediately available. So no need to click buttons or anything. This is a good hint, I think, to solve this. As soon as you save, it's uploaded.
Okay, as we have 1 minute, then let's just take one last question. How to integrate construct modules into Git?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the construct modules are as well at the end of the day just generated sources and modules which are then generated on the server side to some degree, and the result, the templates, or what you have created out of the templates, the modules, to my understanding, you conversion in exactly the same way. But maybe this is a good point to pull in Regina, the expert on this topic. Maybe she can add something to this so that I at least use the chance to bring her in once in this round.
Yes, so the generated module is put in the project, and then you can also store this generated module in the Git repository, and later on you can also choose regenerate for this module to add other user exits or fields also. So you can commit this module in the repository. It's no problem.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I think as we reach to the end of our time here now, so thank you everybody for participating. Any last word from you, Nina, about follow-up and survey?
Yeah, I think we need some kind of a follow-up session here. That was very insightful and helpful for a lot of people. So thanks everybody for joining, and we'll keep you posted and answer your questions and let you know if we can set this up or how we are going to proceed. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day and take good care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.